So yeah, our next speaker, author, successful YouTuber, twice mayoral candidate for Manchester. Got an MBE for 15 years worth of charity work for charity in New Manchester Wide.
Thank you. For people who might not know who I am, I became infamous in the summer of 2020 for daring to critique Black Lives Matter. I wasn't brave, I was just naive. Because in 2020, I thought I was a free man living in a free country with freedom of speech. And suddenly there was this organization called BLM. And I thought to myself, what's this about? So I Googled it, found their website, wrote an article based on their website, and that changed my world, changed my life. Called a Nazi, called a fascist, called racist, sacked from the charity I'd founded, a multi-award winning charity, sacked by the board I appointed, who are personal friends of mine. What they should have realised is I wasn't going to say that lying down. So I mounted a 5-week fight back with the Free Speech Union, and we forced all the board members to resign in disgrace, and I came back to the charity. Now that sounds like a win, but it wasn't, because I still had to leave the charity a year later, because the following year, councils, housing associations, children in need wouldn't give us any money because you're run by a Nazi. So even though I won and I'd cleared my name, that reputation still stuck with me. So I had to leave the charity sector. And then I said to myself, right, you've potentially destroyed my life, and there might not be much I can do about this, but I'll tell you something, you're going to rue the day you messed with me, because I'm going to be a thorn in your side now. I am going to make sure I can't get cancelled again, and I can't. And now I'm going to be a pain in the backside to the woke, to this new agenda we have. And that's what I've been doing. Hence on YouTube, hence running against Andy Burnham twice. For me, I came third as an independent last year, which was pretty good. I'm here today to do a little bit of a different talk. I'm here to basically tell you, we're winning. We're winning this fight, this culture war, we're winning. And I'm going to explain to you now how we're winning and why we're winning. Now, first of all, we're here with Turning Point UK. And the reason why we're here is because their founder was politically assassinated a few months ago. He was killed for telling the truth. I never met the man, never spoke to the man, but I watched many of his videos. So I could be corrected on this, but that was a man who just wanted conversations with people who disagreed with him. He wanted to change people's minds through a million conversations. He may have been right, he may have been wrong. That wasn't the point. The point was he wanted to open dialogue with people who disagreed with him to see where that would lead to see if he could change their mind, to see if they could change his mind. I do change my mind sometimes when someone convinces me otherwise, and that's what we all should be doing. We're building this now, this movement, on the shoulders of giants, people like Charlie Kirk, people like Peter Whittle from New Culture Forum, who died last week of cancer. They've done the groundwork. They were speaking out when nobody else was allowed to speak out. When you got arrested for speaking out, when you were demonized, when everyone thought you was a nutcase, when decent people actually thought you was a racist because you dared talk about immigration and lots of other topics, when you were a homophobe because you weren't so keen on pride. These people were talking out when it was uncomfortable to do it. It's not that uncomfortable anymore now. It isn't uncomfortable. It might be inconvenient, but most people can talk out on many topics now. Please excuse this interruption, but I just wanted to tell you, England is the greatest country ever to exist in the world. If you could imagine a year ago today, things have changed dramatically. Look at the conversations we're having now. I've got a little list here. Let's start with the word woke. When the word woke came about, it's been used in the black community in America for a long time, but suddenly we started hearing about the word woke maybe 10 years ago. People will tell you, I'm woke. It was in people's bios on Twitter. People had t-shirts, say, hi, I'm woke. It was a badge of honor. And what did we do with that? We turned it into a slur. Nobody calls themselves woke anymore now, because they know if you call yourself woke, we'll laugh at you. People will laugh at you and take the mickey. That was a victory, turning their words against them. People don't like to be laughed at. No one likes to be laughed at. That's why dictators always go after the comedians first. We talked about Graham Linehan before. They always go after the comedians because no one wants to be made fun of. Hence, Hitler did it, Stalin did it. They all do it. I won't go too much into trans because we've had probably the best talk I've ever heard on the trans subject. So I'd fail if I'm going to talk about trans. But it wasn't that long ago you couldn't talk about it. It wasn't that long ago you'd lose your job. It wasn't that long ago that the courts in this country were telling us a man can be a woman can be a man. That was the courts of this country, sending men into male sex offenders into female prisons. If we could do that, we could do anything. But that's changed now. The law is on our side now. The law has finally come down to common sense. Why? Because of people like us. Because the judges have caught up now and gone, the public don't really like this, do they? This is mental. And judges are under the same pressure we're under. So some judges are captured, obviously, but some judges are going, I don't want to upset my colleagues. I don't want to lose this position of being a judge. This is my main thing in life, being a judge. People think I'm amazing being a judge. I don't want to lose that. Because chief execs of charities can get sacked for saying stuff. As a judge, maybe I'll get sacked. But they're speaking out now because we've turned the corner on that. Now, the trans issue hasn't gone away. It's going to take a while for the trans issue to completely disappear because many institutions have been captured. And it's going to be some hard work to turn them around. But we talk about it now. It's spoken about on the BBC. You don't get banned off the BBC now for not saying trans women are women. Politicians are not standing up in Parliament anymore, now going, trans women are women, which we've had many politicians do that. Even Tory politicians saying that at the dispatch box. I forgot her name now, the one who held the big sword at the coronation. Penny Morden, nutcase. She's a nutcase. Her brother is an LGBT nutcase, and she's a nutcase because she said it in Parliament and believed it and still believes it. And she ran last year to be leader of the Conservative Party. Could have won. Maybe if it wasn't for that, she was favourite. That's what ruined it for her, was saying that in Parliament. Things have changed there. DEI, my favourite, diversity, equity and inclusion. Not hardly. That's not supported at the same levels it was supported only a year or two ago. All the big corporations and multinationals are now dropping this now. They're dropping it. Let's look at the car manufacturer Jaguar. That's a great example. So when they make a new car or design a new car, that's could be 5-10 years in development, takes a long time. And they started looking at their ad campaign for that probably 5 years ago. Peak woke, they started looking at that, got some woke people in and they went, what are we going to do with Jaguar? Instead of having it as a male car for old white men who want to pick up 20-year-old blonde chicks, what we're going to do is we're going to make it a queer car. That's what we're going to do. I actually like the shape of it. I even like the colour pink one. I think they're lovely cars. I wouldn't buy one, I couldn't afford it, but I'd have one. But the advertisement was basically saying, we're queer. Anybody can have it. Look at me. I'm this weirdo here, weirdo there, walking around on screen. Sales collapsed. They sacked the chief exec. The head of marketing not only got sacked the other day, but had to get escorted out of the building because he wouldn't leave. Facebook have got rid of most of their, I think all of their DEI stuff. All the big corporations have done it because it doesn't work. They bought into it. The top layer never believed in it. The top layer said, this is great marketing. It makes us look pink and fluffy. We're always being accused of being uncaring multinationals. And then, look at Ben & Jerry's ice cream. That's a great example. Ben & Jerry's have been sued for having poison in their ice cream. Their parent company, Unilever, have been prosecuted for using slaves. And Ben & Jerry's have the audacity to lecture you on what you think about immigration in your country. But these companies are dropping all that now, because DEI now, we know, basically means didn't earn it. Didn't earn it. You've been put in those positions because you tick a box. You're gay, you're black, you're disabled, you're a woman, you're overweight, you're disabled, you've got Maori face tattoos. It doesn't matter what it is. You tick a box, and therefore we're going to give you this job. A great example was California, the Los Angeles fires last year, or was it earlier this year? The 3 top people in the fire service in Los Angeles, all female. Nothing wrong with being female, except they shouldn't be firefighters because they're not physically strong enough. But we won't get into that here. A reporter said to one of the top firefighters, an overweight black woman said to her reporter, "If my husband was in a building, I don't think you're strong enough to pull him out." That's a valid enough question. And she said, "If your husband is in a burning building, I think he should think about what he's doing in there." That was her answer to a reporter, because she's a DEI box ticking, hence why the fires got out of control in Los Angeles. That's what we know about DEI. A great example is New Zealand's Navy employed their first captain of a ship about 18 months ago. Yeah, it was last year, 18 months ago. She was a former Royal Navy officer, got promoted and moved to New Zealand and became their first captain. And she sunk the ship. She sailed the ship into coral reefs and it sank. It's the first ship New Zealand's lost since the Second World War. DEI hire. Not because women can't sail boats, just the fact that she was employed because she was a woman. And the New Zealand government made a song and dance about, look what we're doing, we're so inclusive, we've got our first female in charge of this warship. Yeah, she sunk it. Mass migration, mass immigration. You couldn't talk about that a couple of years ago. Talk about mass immigration a couple of years ago. Racist, bigot, Nazi. That's what you'd have got a couple of years ago. We don't get that anymore now. Some people from the sidelines may snipe under their breath, racist. But we don't get it to our faces as much anymore now. It's not on the TV like it used to be, because we can talk about mass migration. Why? Because it's our goddamn country. That's why we can talk about it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with us. Don't mean you have to agree with me. But damn right, I can have the conversation. We can have the conversation. Of course we can. It's our country. Doesn't mean things will change. Doesn't mean what you want is what I want. But that doesn't matter. What matters is we can have these conversations now and all the other topics I just mentioned. The next thing we're going to be talking about is a very difficult topic we're going to be talking about as a nation, and that's remigration. That'll be talking about people who are here legally, may even been born here, but there's going to conversation going to be coming where we're going to say, do we ask those people to leave? Legal migrants who've lived here for 30 years. Do we say, time you went home? I ain't got the answers to this. I don't know. It's going to be a very difficult conversation to have. But do you know what? We're going to have it. Why are we going to have it? Because it's our country. And we deserve to have any conversation we wish to have, regardless of how uncomfortable it is. Because important conversations, by definition, will be uncomfortable. They will be. I've got lots of issues with feminism. I've got lots of issues with the LGB. Forget the T, the Q, and the plus. But we're going to have those conversations because the pendulum is swinging the other way now. What we need to be aware of is it doesn't swing too far, because that's what pendulums do. They swing from one extreme to the other. Now the pendulum is beginning to swing. It's not going to stop in the middle, because they never do. But the more conversations we have, the more the public's on board for those conversations, the more voices that are heard, maybe if we work hard together, maybe we stop that pendulum swinging as far as it was going to, and we try to pull it back close to the center as we possibly can. Now, that's how I know we're winning this fight. That's why I know we're winning, because you're in this room. A couple of years ago, the chances are this bar wouldn't have given us this room a couple of years ago. I had an event in here maybe 3 years ago with Calvin Robinson. You all know Calvin Robinson? Yeah. He's the tall mixed race black man, used to be on GB News. He now lives in America. He's a priest, he's of a deacon or something. I know him, so I invited him here, sold tickets. There was going to be an evening with Calvin Robinson. We sold tickets. Someone complained to this pub, it's different owners then, and they cancelled the event and said, we've been told he's a racist. And I said, do you know who Calvin Robinson is? They went, no. Let me show you a picture. Got my phone out, got a picture on Google. That's him. He's black. I went, no fucking shit, Sherlock, he's black. You've cancelled this event because you think he's racist. He's a black man. Oh, he's got a dog collar on. He's a deacon as well. So that was only 3 years ago. Things have changed. That's why we're in this room now. So don't beat yourself up that we've got, this fight is unwinnable. It's not unwinnable because we're winning. The fact you sat here shows we're winning. Anything I've gone through shows we're winning. The fight's not over. We've won many battles now, but the war is not over. Some of these people will not go quietly. Some of the institutions will not go quietly. We have to keep pushing. One of the questions before was, what can we do about it? Apart from going on the street with billboards, what can we do about it? And the answer is this. The first thing is, doing nothing isn't an option. And if your strategy is, I'm going to do nothing and I'm going to leave it to other people, there's a word for that. It's cowardice. Now, that doesn't mean you have to do what I do. That doesn't mean you have to go on the streets. It doesn't mean you have to do stuff to get sacked. We don't need martyrs in this fight. Because if you're silly and you get sacked from your job, what happens then? It scares everybody else. Shit, I don't lose my job. I've got a mortgage and kids. So you scare everybody else. You need to fight. You need to be sneaky. And you need to be a ninja. Not a whinger. You need to be a ninja. You need to be a sneaky fucker. You need to fight behind the scenes if you've not got the sort of life where you can be out in the front. You may not have the confidence to speak. You may have the confidence to do things, but there's things you can do. There's always something you can do. Now, what that thing is, I don't know because I'm not you. That's for you to take some time. That's for you to think about what you can do and how you can impact. And if that's just helping to educate your family and friends, well, that's 20, 30 people who have just been educated. That's something. That deserves a round of applause if you do that. How about you don't lie anymore? How about you stop accepting lies? So when someone says to you, trans women can be women, instead of going, and ignoring it, you go, wait a minute, what did you say? And can I tell you, the people who say stuff like that, the vast majority of them, can't back anything up. So ask them some questions and say, I don't believe that. And your friends around you may not say anything, but they're thinking what you're thinking, and suddenly they go, right, they said those things, and I'm not the only one who thinks this is batshit crazy. Other people think it's batshit crazy. I'm going to start speaking out as well to my family and my friends, and I'm not going to be a coward anymore. And I'm not going to live by lies anymore. So that's what we're doing. That's what we were doing. We were living by lies. Closing our eyes and going, okay, if you tell me a woman can be a man, okay. If you tell me that, a 4'2" police officer, female police officer can take down 2 drunken men on a Friday, okay, I'll believe you. We need to stop living by lies, and we need to start telling people who are lying to us. We need to say, no, I don't believe that for these reasons. And maybe you'll make a mistake every now and again. And maybe you'll be wrong every now and again. But that's human. And if we learn from our mistakes, that's fantastic as well. Makes us better people. But doing nothing isn't an option. Because if you do nothing, what you're basically doing is you're giving your share of the fight to someone else to carry. You're making everybody else who's fighting, you're making their life that little bit more difficult because you're not carrying your load. You're not doing your bit. And I'm sure people in this room are doing their bit. That's why you're here. So I'm not saying you're not, but that's why we need everyone doing their bit. If we get 50 million people doing a tiny, tiny bit, that's a tsunami of change coming our way. And things are changing. Forget the things I've said now. Look at our political parties now. Tories are saying they're going to deport all illegals. Weren't saying that 6 months ago. Reform UK. 6 months ago, Nigel Farage on the news said, no, we can't deport illegal immigrants. It can't be done. Not that it's wrong to do it, but it just can't be done. You know, trying to working it out it can't be done. So I'm not getting into that. It can't. He kept saying it can't be done. 6 months later, we're deporting all illegals. Why? Because suddenly they saw the polls of what the British people were thinking, and going, "There's votes in this now." That's why both those parties have changed their tune, and good, because that's how democracy works. Democracy works when political parties go, we're going to represent this section of the populace, and they're going to vote for us for these policies that we know they want. And we're going to have more parties like that. On the opposite side of that, we've got the Green Party, who have shot up in the polls. And I'm glad they've shot up in the polls, because finally the Greens have got a new leader, Zach Polanski, who we know is a nutcase. But regardless of that, he's the first honest nutcase to lead the Greens. We've always known the Greens were communist nutcases, but he's proud to be a communist nutcase, tells us he's a communist nutcase, and he's had a big bump in the polls because we all like honest politicians. And I sort of respect him for that, just like I sort of respect Jeremy Corbyn for not changing his tune, for always having the same vision, for being a statesperson. He's not for changing. I would never vote for the man, but at least he's not for changing. The Greens are doing that now. So hence why they're going up in the polls, because we are becoming more separated. There is no middle anymore. It's this or it's this. The Greens will implode. They'll implode before the next election, because you can't have Islamists and far left woke nutcases in the same party. You can't have one group saying throw gays off buildings and the others going, oh, we're gay and celebrate gays. They don't live together. We saw it in Iran. We saw it in Iran where they combined together to take over the country. And what did they do when the Ayatollah won? He killed all the lefties, killed them all, and then he had the country to himself. So our politics is changing. I've joined Advance UK. So they're new, they're different. If you've not heard of them, check them out, but I'm not here to lecture on Advance UK. I want you to go away today with a skip in your step. A skip in your step. You're not going to get the world over the next couple of years. This country will change. It won't change into your utopia. It won't, because it's never will turn into one person's utopia unless you're a dictator. All we can ask for and all we can wish for is the country is better than it is today. And that's what we need to be aiming for. Little steps. And we're seeing those little steps now. And eventually we'll get to a tipping point and the country will change faster than we can imagine. And at that point, there's danger there. There is danger. And we need to be aware of that. But don't expect everything to go your way. We're all going to have to compromise. We're all going to have to look at different ways of running the country, different ways of engaging with each other. But things are definitely going to change. And here's my prediction how things are going to change. We're going to get a smaller state in my lifetime. The state in the UK will shrink because it's too big. At the height of the British Empire, we had 16,000 civil servants running the biggest empire the world has ever seen. Today, in our failing country, we've got over 500,000 civil servants running a failing country. Is there a correlation there between the number of civil servants and the failure of a country? I think there is. I want a smaller state. I want you to have more personal responsibility in your life. I want you to be blamed more when things go wrong in your life. I want you to get the credit when things go right in your life. I want you to raise your children the way you think your children should be raised. Even if I disagree with it, within a certain legal framework context. Obviously, I don't want you sacrificing your child to Baal or anything like that. But I don't want the state telling you how to raise your child. I don't want the state feeding your children. Because at the moment, we feed children now during 6 weeks holidays. They're going to school for food. We feed children at breakfast clubs because we can then force their mums out to work when they should be home raising their children and giving their children a healthy breakfast, walking them to school. All our priorities have changed over the last 100 years, and it's killing us. Here's one stat you probably don't know. 20% of all British women are on antidepressants. 20%. Feminism work for them? Does this society work for them? 5,000 men in this country every year kill themselves. Are they happy? Is this country working for them? We're looking at, you look at how much self-harm there is, attempted suicide. And what does the government do? I have no idea what the government does. I just know they're making it worse. I want us to have the responsibilities. We're English and British kings and queens. We need to rule our castles and our kingdoms ourselves. We need to reject the state as much as we can. We need a benefit system. I've spent 15 years working the poorest, most disenfranchised people in society. I've got over 100 people off the streets in this city centre sleeping rough into accommodation. So I want a welfare system. I just don't want this one. Because what this one does is this one turns you into a victim. This one tells you, take this money, shut your mouth, sit on benefits, watch Coronation Street and don't vote. That's what this system does. I want a system that says, you've fallen on hard times. We're going to give you a hand up, not a hand out. We're going to help you help yourself because you need to help yourself. Because when you help yourself, your children see that and they become better citizens. They become more resilient. They'll have better lives. I've seen so much intergenerational poverty and people sat on benefits. Not necessarily their fault. Because if you give people a selection of choices, they're going to pick the best choice for them. And sometimes the best choice for them is this over-generous welfare system. I once was trying to get a drug user arrested. He was a burglar when I used to work at Manchester Council. And he had a child, 6-month-old baby boy, being raised by his parents because he was a drug addict. He was getting £30 a week in benefits, over all benefits, but this particular one was £30 a week, to rub cream into his baby because his baby had eczema. He was classed as the baby's carer. He never saw the baby. We're paying parents to parent. He should be rubbing cream into, the grandparents did it. But we're paying parents to be parents. Isn't that the job of a loving father? To want to rub medicine into the skin of your baby boy. Why are we paying people to do that? That's how perverse our system is. All these things were started with the best intentions. Of course they were. But it's turning the British people into beggars. It's turning us into weaklings. And we never used to be like this. We used to be so much better than we are now. Because people 100 years ago wouldn't have fallen for the shit we've fallen for this last 10, 20 years. They would have laughed at it. But they've chipped away at us, our confidence, our self-respect, and they've chipped away until, not all of us, but many people now are shells of who they used to be, shells of who they should be. But that's changing. You can hear their voices now. You can hear, especially the English. The English are getting vocal now. Flags are going up. The English are going no more. We've always had vocal Scots and Irish and Welsh, but the English always felt bad about talking about stuff because we were perceived as always the baddies because we're the biggest nation. But that's changing. And I can see more and more change coming. And it's going to start, and it started at the grassroots, and it has to be grassroots. It has to be us who wants change. And don't vote for a party and think, I've done my bit, I voted, they're going to sort it all out, because they're not. Don't think it's Labour that's the problem. And if we can just get rid of this Labour government, things will be right. Do you remember the 14 years shit Tories and what they did? They started all this. They introduced woke and DEI and all the trans. They started taking our rights away, introduced hate crime laws. They started it all. So thinking that solution is just a political party, they're part of the answer. Of course they are. We need a political answer, but they're not the answer by themselves. We're the answer. We need to hold politicians to account. We need to hold political parties to account, and we need to hold ourselves to account. Because if we're lazy, if we're apathetic, if we give up, if we don't care, why should anybody else? But the country's changed. The country is waking up. People are demanding better. People are demanding our birthright. We live in the greatest country ever to exist in the history of the world. I wrote a book about it, England, My England. It's the greatest. It may not be the greatest country today, but look over the history of the world. England's the greatest country ever to exist, ever. We created the modern world. We created most of the medicines, most of the science. We've got a fantastic history. We will survive this and we will come back, but only if we want us to come back. I want us to come back and I won't stop fighting for that. But when you leave here today, remember one thing. Doing nothing isn't an option anymore now. It really isn't an option. Thank you. Right, I'll take some questions, yeah. First question.
So my first question is, Mick, are you going to stand for mayor again? Because I believe Nigel Farage is taking some legal action against the government because they're trying to stop the mayoral elections.
Yeah.
First question. My second question is, what are your thoughts on digital identification?
Sure. Mayor elections. So as you may know, the Labour government, look, I've said they're going to stop the mayor elections next year. Manchester, Greater Manchester is not one of those elections. It's another 2 years away. These are new posts created down south somewhere. But that's not the point. This will be the second year in a trot that this Labour government have said, we're cancelling these elections that we don't like. Cancelling elections. America had a civil war, had a revolution with the British Empire because we wouldn't let them vote. And they didn't want to pay taxes without representation. And this is the second year now this government is removing the right to vote from people in this country. There's a name for that. It's dictatorship.
Yeah.
It's tyranny. That's what that is.
Communism.
Now, when we have the next mayor elections in Greater Manchester, so it's 2 years away, will I stand again? I won't stand again as independent because I can't afford it. Last year when I stood, I took 25 grand out my pension and used that to run as mayor, funded my campaign, and took 15 months not working and worked on it for 15 months full time. I can't do that again.
You got more votes than the Reform candidate did.
I beat Reform, I beat the Lib Dems, and I beat the Greens.
Woo!
And Tories just beat. I did it because I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it. I wanted to put my money where my mouth was. And I wanted to have a real go at running that and trying to hold Andy Burdon to account because he's not held to account. He's got a great PR team and he bats away stuff he doesn't want to answer. And all his underlings have to answer those questions. He's done nothing for Greater Manchester. The one about digital ID, they've been pushing digital ID for a very, very long time. Tony Blair, you know, he was the first one talking about it. If we've got digital ID, we can save this and save that. And then it was digital ID, oh, it'll help with COVID. And now digital ID under this government will stop illegal immigration. I mean, imagine that. Imagine those illegal migrants on the boats as they throw away their passports, their driver license and ID, and they go, but I'm not throwing away that digital ID. And it's like, it's just an excuse to try to control the people. Because if we've got a digital ID, controlling us and running us will be a lot easier. I spent a decade working at Manchester Council. This is how it works. And it's not like this because they're evil. They're not James Bond villains in a volcano stroking a white cat going, we want to control everybody. It doesn't work like that. It works like this. We know best. I'm educated. I got a first-class degree from Oxford, and now I'm the chief executive of a council. I've got a fantastic life. I've got an amazing pension that you idiots are paying for. Right, how do I improve your lives? How do I improve your city? Right, well, we should do these things. But the people don't want to do that. That's because they don't know any better. So what we need to do is we need to incentivize them to do it. Right, we've done that. They still don't want to do it. Right, well, we need to penalize them until they do it. Right, they still don't want to do that. Right, now we need to force them to do it because we know best. We're the professionals in this. We know how to run a city. We know how to ensure these serfs, we know how to ensure they have better lives because they want lives like us because we're amazing. So they've got no concept that you're all individuals. They've got no concept. It's up to you how you run your life. It's up to no one else. You could do things in your life that I could find immoral, that I don't like. But that's your choice. To a certain, again, let's go back to sacrificing babies. Unless we go that far, it's down to individuals to run their lives. The council should be setting the framework to ensure you can do the things you want to do, not to inhibit what you do, not to control what you do. And that's what digital ID is going to be about. We've seen it in China. Did you know if you don't pay your tax in China, the penalties are horrendous, as in it's something like 1 million people in China every year are stopped from buying train tickets because you've got to show, digital ID says you can't buy it. If you default on your taxes, your children can't go to university. That stops that. Can you imagine if we had digital ID during COVID? Can you imagine what they would have done to us? Because they did a lot without digital ID. If they had it, it would have been so much more.
I'm referring back to digital ID, like you said, Tony, but was talking about the idea of it long before they've tried officially bringing it in anyway. And I'm sure the majority of us are aware the government and whoever's running these type of things and putting them through is always at least 5, 10, maybe more years ahead of us or ahead of what we're aware of. In 2020, I do actually remember specifically them coming out more so about the digital ID, saying that it'd help. And that's when they first, from what I remember, introduced the 15-minute cities with the digital ID. And then it's all come back around again. And I understand people's frustration with it. I'm frustrated with it. But I feel like now, talking about it now, there's nothing you can do now because it's already been set in play. It was already set in play in at least 2020 for it to then be pushed forward. So there is no stopping it at this point. So in terms of, they've always been ahead of doing it and they've always been ready to do it. It's just been keeping us sort of in the unknown, ready to push it out. Don't let us know, because if we know early enough, then we can challenge it.
I guarantee this, the next government will reject digital ID. Whoever it is, Tories, Reform, combination, whatever, will reject digital ID because they're hearing the public now. And they know it won't fly. I think we're the only country in Europe who don't need ID to walk around their own country. Because we're free. Well, we should be free people. It should be free. A police officer can only stop you if he suspects you've committed a crime or witnessed you committed a crime. Up to that point, you're not allowed to be stopped. That's our birthright. On the continent, it's different. So the laws on the continent are different, as in, in this country, you can do whatever you want unless the law tells you can't. In the continent, it's you can do nothing unless the government tells you you can. We've got a whole different mindset and legal system to them. So I'm not worried about digital ID. I'm not worried about the WEF. I'm not worried about many of these things. I think they're all a busted flush. They were dangerous 5-10 years ago, but I think we've turned that corner now. Okay. I think they're a busted flush.
So I know it's a bit early to say, but what are your predictions for 2029 there? Do you think Labour were going to, they're quite stubborn. Do you think they're just going to make it all the way through?
I can't see how Labour survive. Keir Starmer could go any day. And if Keir Starmer goes, Rachel Reeves go. They're a double act. Yeah. One can't stay and one goes. I think both will be gone after May next year. The local elections are going to be that bad for Labour. Both of them will have to go. Labour are not going to volunteer an early election. Why would they? They're on £96,000 each. Why would you want an election knowing you're going to lose your seat? So they're going to stick as long as possible. But events happen. Events happen. If the economy gets worse, it collapses, there's a run on the pound, we have to go to the ENF for a bailout, something like that can bring the government down. So something is going to happen, maybe for them more, who knows, but I can't see how they last the full 5 terms. But they could technically, but I think Starmer and Reeves will be gone after May next year.
Like to follow up what Izzy just said, your big stand set is about is threatening if the Labour Party trying to do a leadership challenge, he'll trigger snap election to fight them.
Lots and lots of prime ministers have said that. It's a great threat. It's the suicide. It's the suicide threat. If you get rid of me, I'll call an election and we're all out of a job. And you're on 90. I mean, has anyone in this room ever earned 96 grand a year? So can you imagine the incentive you have to keep your job at 96 grand a year?
And expenses.
Well, expenses on, yeah, they make a lot more expenses, but 96 grand a year. So I can't see him doing that. He would go down in history as, in the Labour Party itself, as the worst prime minister ever if he did that. So I don't think he would do that at all. It's a threat.
I can remember the 2016 general election, Theresa May. I remember the tactical voting spreadsheet that came out.
Yeah.
To the lefties. And I remember seeing it, and it basically said, that we should get, if you're a lefty, this is the party you should vote for in your constituency to get the Lib Dems, to get the best chance of getting, preventing Tories from getting a majority at the time. Do you fear a similar spreadsheet or tactical voting strategy amongst the lefties? Can the right do a tactical voting spreadsheet to counter that? And can Reform or the right-wing party win?
Left-wing coalition supporting each other, 2016, you're going to see that on steroids. It's already started. This is Keir Starmer's strategy at the moment, and this will be ramped up all the way up to the general election. We're here for the British public. We're pink and fluffy. We love you. We're gonna support you, and we're the only left-wing party that can beat Hitler and the Nazis, who are reforms. They talked about this at their conference months ago, and now I've said it, you're going to see it all the time. Labour constantly refer to reform as Nazis, fascists, Hitler, Nigel Farage in the press at the moment because he
Projection.
school, anti-Semitism. They're setting the ground. So in the next general election, for the left-wing voters of the country, it'll be this choice. It's Labour Party, we're not perfect, we've done our best, we'll be better next time, or the Nazis. That is their only hope of potentially winning the next election. Will it work? It won't work because of what I said before. Countries change. Who cares anymore now? I can read anything now. I can read that someone I know, someone famous, has been accused of homophobia. Probably not. It's not true. Who cares? Racist. He's killed someone. 15-year-old boys. He's buried in his basement. It's not true. So all these things wash over us now. It's a different country. So I think it's a failed strategy. It's the only strategy they can do. I get it. As in, I'd probably be doing the same as them if I was them. There's nothing else they can do. They can't improve our lives. They can't reduce crime. They can't stop migration. They can't stop illegal migration. Everything. No, all NHS has come. They can't fix anything. So it's going to have to be this narrative. I get that. Can the right join and do something?
Not officially. Not officially.
Well, definitely not officially, because they hate each other more than they hate Labour, because they're each other's competition. Reform, Tories. I can see an unofficial coalition, as in, we're not going to push our candidates in these seats because you've got the best chance of winning, and you'll repay us by not standing in these seats where we've got a very good chance of winning. I can see that happening. But anything's to play for. The next general election at the moment, anything's to play for. Tories are out at the moment, but if they got a much better leader, if by some chance they elected Robert Jenrick, which they won't, But if they did, that would change their fortunes overnight, and it'd be a huge threat to Reform UK. Reform UK are being scrutinised now. They're not going to stay at this level in the polls. No one ever does. If you're old enough like me, you'll remember the SDP in the 80s. The SDP were a breakaway faction from the Labour Party who had four big beasts. Four huge politicians broke away. These were household names. And for about a 3-4 year period, maybe not as long as that, every poll said they were going to win their next election. They didn't, they disappeared. So things can happen to Reform, we don't know. The party's not a democracy. It's run as a dictatorship. Nigel Farage is Marmite. You either love him or you hate him. There's hardly anyone in between who goes, he's all right. You either love him or you hate him. Anything can happen. And there's so much time between, maybe it's a year or two away.
Time uncertainty, isn't it?
Anything can happen. Absolutely. It's exciting time. It's exciting time.
What do you think about the potential of Rupert Lowe taking over the Conservative Party and cleaning house and branding them as Conservatives 2.0?
Not a chance in hell. Should do. Yeah, no, it is. At the moment, the Tory party reputation is in the gutter. It's going to take many years to get that reputation back. And if they do, then maybe someone like Rupert Lowe could move in then. But even we can't elect the people who brought the country over 14 years. And that's part of the accusation I have against Reform. Reform now are just a new Tory. All the people who brought the country have just moved into it because they think they're going to win their seat. That's right. How stupid do these people think we are? And the answer is something you're not going to like. Maybe we are stupid as a nation because they're still up in the polls. But I don't think Rupert Lowe has refused to join Advance UK, and he's just started his own party.
Great Yarmouth.
Yeah, Great Yarmouth, which is a tiny political party just for the Great Yarmouth area, which means he's going to run the next general election just in Great Yarmouth as an independent MP. Up to a week ago, I'd have said he's retiring in the next election. That's what I'd have said a week ago. But if you're retiring, you don't set up a political party to represent the seat you're in now. So he's definitely standing again. Gentleman at the back, and then...
Yeah, what are your specific goals and hopes with Advance UK?
Could you repeat that?
So what are your specific goals and hopes with Advance UK?
So I'm disillusioned with all political parties. I joined Reform at Christmas because they looked like they had the wind beneath their sails. They were, fairly new. I'd been involved with them previously before. And I joined because I want to get something done in the country. And I don't necessarily want the praise. I don't want the accolade. I don't want to be the leader. But within months, I was disillusioned and resigned and left. And then I wasn't going to join another political party. I said to myself, you look like an idiot in it. You just joined Reform, told everybody, and now within months you've left. And I don't want to be one of those people who every time you meet me, right, I'm a Labour supporter now, and next month you meet me, or I've joined the Tories now, and now I've joined the Homeland Party, and now I've just joined you. And there's people like that.
Lee Appleton.
Pardon?
Lee Addison.
Yeah. And I don't want to be one of those people because what credibility do you have then? So I had no intention of joining the party. Then Advance got launched. And I looked at Advance UK, and thought, right, I like that overall approach. But what I really liked was something new they've developed called the College. So under the leadership, there is a new body called the College. And I'm a member of the College. That's roughly 100 people who have got knowledge or expertise in different fields. And we're going to use that college to create the policies that we think are going to improve the country. So rather than Reform, where did that policy come from? It was Nigel's idea. Or the Tories, where did that policy come from? Well, we've spoken to our funders and they really like that. Rather than doing that, we've got experts looking at how we develop those policies. And I joined the party to join the college because what I want to do is I want to create some policies around social policy. How are we going to end up sleeping? How? And why haven't we done it in one of the richest countries in the world. Why do we allow our citizens to live and die on the streets? Walk around the city centre now, you'll see people living on the streets. Shame on us. Shame on us for allowing that. I've got the solutions. Like, I've worked with homeless now for 2 decades. I know how to solve that. How do you stop young people carrying knives and stabbing each other to death and then watch them bleed to death on the street? How do we do that? I've got the answers to that. I want to create some policies that are going to solve some of the problems I've been tackling for 2 decades. And if other people steal them, I don't care.
Yeah.
I just want someone to implement some policies that will work, but more importantly, won't have unintended consequences. So that's what happens with our policies. This is a great policy. We're going to do that. And it's worked. Yeah, but shit, you created 9 problems now we didn't have before. Oh, let's solve them. Now we've got 108 problems now. And that's what we keep doing, because the people who develop the policies don't understand the bigger picture, don't understand what humans do. If you've been to Oxford and you've got a first-class degree in Oxford in political studies or psychology or whatever you've got, and you're extremely clever, and I give them, they are clever. What do you know about normal people? What do you know about, how do you know what a criminal thinks? I know, because some of my family are criminals. I grew up with criminals. Some of my friends ended up in Strangeways prison. My uncle hung himself in Strangeways prison. I understand criminality. I understand how they think, because I grew up on those streets with those people. But you go to Oxford and you go, right, it's because I don't get enough love. It's because I ain't got enough money.
Yeah.
It's because of this. It's because, like, no, they'll tell you that because they're playing you. They're playing you. So, again, I could be wrong. We all could be wrong. But I feel I've got the experience, the frontline experience, and the knowledge and the life I've lived, that I know how to solve some of these problems without creating a whole raft of new problems. Do you have a question?
Well, it wasn't the question. It was more like I suggest the entire political system needs to be abolished completely, totally taken down, and we need something completely different. And what you were saying there probably alluded to some of that. We need people in charge that are at the top, that are not in it just for themselves. Because this is the problem with politicians. Politicians are not for the people. Politicians are bred for themselves. That's all they do it for. They don't give a shit about anybody else. They're there because they've gone through the public schools, they've gone through whatever, and they're there to literally enhance their own lives. We'll need to take the entire system down.
Yes.
But we have to have something in place, because the average Joe on the street will not go for something different unless they can see it working. So how do we get to that system? You like everything what you've used so far, but how do we get that into, I think we're public preachers of the conservative leader, and there's not a huge audience in this room. How do we get that message to the people, the average Joe, to say, look, the system's corrupt, the system's broken, we need to literally abolish it and start again? How do we do that?
I'm against abolishing it. If you tear the system down and you get rid of it, we need a new one building. Our system has taken hundreds of years to get to where it is now. It's failing at the moment, but if we think we can create a better system, then the odds are we're going to create a worse system.
Tried the French Revolution, didn't they?
Yeah, it did. So I mean, I'm for tweaking, I'm for improving, I'm for correcting the system, not tearing it down. You're right about politicians. It all went wrong at one stage, and it's when we introduced career politicians. Because when it turned into a job, what do you want to do when you're in a job? You want promotion, you want to earn more money, and it's all about you because it's a job. You're working in Tesco's. You're not always thinking about, oh, I better work harder, those shareholders. You don't think, and if you're a career politician, you're never thinking about the voters. You're never thinking about the citizens. We need, If you go back to the 1970s that I remember, not that long ago, 1970s, in the chamber, the House of Commons, you had former miners. You had former soldiers who fought in the Second World War. You had doctors. You had different people in there who brought so much experience, understood the world. You look at the Labour Party now, none of them are miners. They've all been to Oxford, Cambridge.
Lawyers.
They're all lawyers. That's where it went wrong. I think we need to look at who should be able to stand for Parliament. I think there probably has to be an age limit because we want people with some sort of life experience. I also think there needs to be, you need to have other jobs. We've got people who leave university with a degree straight to helping an MP, straight into a safe seat and an MP for 30, 40 years. What do they know about life? What do they know about anything? All they know about is how to play politics. And the more we play politics, the more we're in trouble as a nation. Career politicians is what's ruined Parliament and ruined this country. It can be changed. I think it can be changed quite easily. Most of our problems, I think, can be solved quite easily. It requires two things: will and a backbone. That's what we're lacking with our politicians. No one's got a backbone to do anything. This gentleman, and then I'll come to you.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, final thing.
Final piece. One, two, three. Go on. In answer to the last, can I suggest the answer is the restoration of the House of Lords as the House of Power and the House of Commons as the House of the People. And then we basically put it, so rather than having lobbyists corrupting the House of Commons, you give them the power in the House of Lords to be, they represent the economies of the country, and you balance that with the people.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see the House of Lords change. I don't want an elected chamber. I don't want another House of Commons. I don't want an elected chamber. I think all the Lords should do it, and then what we do then is we elect people on a 10-year term, the people we think we need in there. So you as a world-class surgeon, would you like to be a Lord for 10 years? You run a multinational company. Would you like to be a Lord for 10 years? You work for charity. You as a nurse. You as this. And we have appointed, not elected, appointed people in the House of Lords to scrutinise legislation, to hold the Commons to account more. I don't want an elected chamber there. This gentleman here, we're running out of time, right?
How many of the issues you kind of mentioned do you think we need to solve if the country to the economic say? So I feel like some of the things you mentioned, take and different places go back. Mentioned economics. I've heard these type of law is economic. And if we were going to help the economics say, a lot of the other issues, so my question is, do you feel your stance has been different if the country wasn't a healthy economic state? And secondly is, you mentioned that in this they cash in and big. What's one action that if you the way like that everyone else going to do or essentially?
Yeah. I think the reason why it's come to a head now is because of economics, you're right. We're poorer, we're feeling poorer, services don't work, but we've been getting this way for decades and decades, but we ignored it and it didn't seem as bad because we're economically successful. So if we turn back to being economically successful, that doesn't improve the country, just gives an excuse to ignore it for even longer. So I don't think economics itself saves the country. I would rather be poorer and happier. Yeah. Most people will vote for being poorer and happier. Money, things, doesn't buy happiness. When you're lying on your deathbed, you say to yourself, I wish I'd spent more time with my son. I wish I'd been better relationship with my father and my mother. You don't go, I wish I'd have got that deal. I wish I'd got that promotion. I wish I had a better car. It's all about value of life. One thing, if I could change anything, and I've been banging about this for 2 decades, what we're lacking is personal responsibility. We've got to a habit in this country where we always reject personal responsibility and it's always someone else's fault. What can a state do for me because I need this? Why am I suffering like this? Whose fault is it? It can't be my fault, my choices, my decisions, my laziness, my lack of intelligence, my lack of aspiration. It always has to be someone else's problem. So I'd always want more personal responsibility.
Last question.
Oh, yeah, sorry. We'll do go on. Yeah.
Please. Butter.
I should say career politician Andy Byrne. I'm here to blame him because when you talk to the apolitical, the sensible to work, they'll kind of agree with you on most things. They'll seem very sensible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but Andy Burnham's alright, he's a South Wales. How is it just a PR team like you touched on?
PR team, it's all PR. He spends all his money on PR. He never gets involved in any serious conversations. It's always, he turns up at all the positive stuff. He sends his deputies out for all the negative stuff. He's a classic career politician and he's done it very well. Last question.
Well, just something about Andy Burnham. He knows about all the Pakistani raid downs. Raja Mia's already mentioned all that about it. My question to you, man, was what do you think of the civil servants? I feel like they are the scumbags which are controlling the country. And reform get in. I'm not a fan of Farage.
Yeah.
He probably will get in. I feel like they will shit on him like Trump's first turn in a way when he got in.
Yeah.
And maybe, hopefully the fans will like Rupert Lowe or I mean I love Benavides, I think he's a top dude he is, man.
For the civil service, it's this. Whoever wins the next election needs to pass a law straight away that ministers can sack the top 2 or 3 levels of civil servants. So then the minister goes, why has this not been done? Well, you're sacked. And that's what we need to keep the civil service under control. Because at the moment, the civil service run the country. It isn't ministers.
It's like what you said, take responsibility.
Guy, thank you, everybody, for listening to ramblings of an old man. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.